It's the Bill Press Show Election Day Special, broadcasting live on Free Speech TV and at youtube.com/The Bill Press Show.
Hello, friends and neighbors worldwide on Free Speech TV. What do you say? It's great to see you. This is Election Day, Tuesday, November 8th, and this is your Free Speech TV Election Day Special. The Bill Press Show will be here for the next hours leading up to when the polls close here on the East Coast and bringing you all the latest on this historic day, on this historic broadcast. The first ever Free Speech TV election special. Certainly the first ever that the Bill Press Show has done, and we're glad to be here with you. And good to see all of you today. Thanks so much for joining us. We got so much to talk about. This is indeed a historic day. President Obama summed it up perhaps best yesterday when he was down in North Carolina, bringing back that chant that in 2008. Remember, he went to some little gathering down in North Carolina, and there's an older woman who kept saying, "Fired up." And then the rest of the people would say, "Ready to go." President Obama picked it up, made it the theme of his campaign. It is the theme of this campaign as well at the very end here. And the theme of our show today, we are fired up and ready to go. Here's the president yesterday.
Are you fired up? Ready to go? Fired up? Ready to go? Fired up? Ready to go? Let's go finish what we started. Let's elect Hillary Clinton.
All right, that's the mood. That's the spirit. President Obama in fine shape and really came on strong here at the end of this campaign. So today, the last day that you are able to vote, and let's get this straight, right? If you haven't voted yet, stop watching, get out of the house, get out and vote. That is so important, because our message to you today is really twofold. One, it looks good for Hillary Clinton. It looks good for progressives. It looks good for Democrats. It looks good for America. But it ain't over yet. And so don't sit back. If you haven't voted, you got to vote. It's your duty. It's your privilege. It's your responsibility. And we encourage you to get out there and then come back and watch the rest of the program. And we want to start off right away today a little bit of breaking news at the very top of the show. We'll bring you breaking news throughout the show as we get it. But here we are.
This is a Bill Press Show breaking news update.
Right? Right? Like this is a professional operation, man.
Well, I think
we
tried. I feel like I'm on CNN.
Yeah, right? Well, all right, here's the breaking news. We now know who George W. Bush...
Can you stop a minute?
Sure.
I'm sorry. I should introduce Peter Ogburn.
Hi, everybody.
And Jamie Benson, our team here today.
Guys.
Help bring in the news.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. This
exactly.
is weird to see you guys.
And you don't see him, but we wouldn't be looking at you without Cyprian Bolding, our videographer, on the job as well. Okay, now.
Breaking news.
Duly introduced. Breaking news.
Breaking news. We now know who George W. Bush and his wife Laura Bush voted for in the election. The spokesperson,
Gary Johnson,
for George W. Bush confirmed that he and Laura Bush left blank ballots. They did not vote for president, and then they voted Republican the rest of the way down. But they did not vote for president.
Chicken.
Swing and a miss.
Remember,
swing and a miss.
Nephew George P. said that they were going to vote for Hillary.
There was a lot. Rush Limbaugh earlier today said that he heard that George W. Bush was going to vote for Hillary Clinton. But the spokesperson put it out, said, just so you know, we left it blank. And then they voted Republican the rest of the ticket.
All right. Okay. We're going to be joined by Congressman Keith Ellison in just a minute here, too, or so. But just to let you know what we're going to be doing here for the next couple of hours. And let's not escape this. In all this talk, right, let's not lose sight of the fact that this is an historic day, whatever happens. I mean, this is huge. This is America at its best, and we're all part of it. We make it happen. We are the oldest democracy on the planet. And we show the world every 4 years who we are when we go out and we vote and we elect new leaders or re-elect the leader that we've got. We decide all over again what direction we want this country to go in. And we do it in a peaceful way, a very peaceful transfer of power from one administration to the next, again, or maybe continuing that same administration. It's an example we set to the world. You see America at its best today, and I say this: I have never seen so many people lined up to vote in Washington, D.C., as I did today at the polling place, which is very close to our studio. Left our program, regular program this morning, and I saw this huge line at the market, this Eastern Market right up the street from us. It went all the way down one block and then all the way up another block. People very calmly, very quietly, just standing in line to vote. I thought they were giving something away at the market. I thought, oh my God, they're giving away free chickens or something, right? No, these are people staying in line to vote. It was very impressive, and we are all part of it indeed. And the other thing to keep in mind, of course, and you know this, but just to remind ourselves that why this is so important is that everything is on the line. Everything is on the line. What direction this country goes in terms of all issues at home here, all domestic issues, and where we stand in the world today. That's why picking this leader is so important. And the Supreme Court of the United States, it's all on the line. So is the Senate. So is the House. We'll be talking more about that. I mean, yes, we pick a president. Yes, we choose between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. Yes, whichever one gets 270 electoral votes is the next president, the 45th president of the United States. But control of the United States Senate is also up to date. Right now, Republicans have 54 seats, Democrats 44, with 2 independents. So there's a vote difference of 8 seats. Democrats need 4 seats minimum to control the Senate if Hillary Clinton's elected, or 5 seats if Donald Trump were elected. And, we're looking at some pretty key states there, key Senate races in Nevada, in North Carolina, Missouri, which that's a red state, may go for Trump, but that Senate seat could very well be up for grabs for Democrats. Pennsylvania, Illinois, another 2 big Senate races, New Hampshire, Ohio, Florida, Indiana, and Wisconsin. All of those states up for grabs, all the races in all those states, very, very close, with one exception maybe of Illinois, which looks like it's in the bag for Tammy Duckworth. And then the House of Representatives, every member of the House is up as well today. Republicans now have 246 seats in the House. Democrats have 186 in the House. There are 3 vacancies. And so that Democrats would need 30 seats to win control of the House of Representatives. Not likely, but could happen. And really, control of the Senate and the House may depend on how well Hillary Clinton does in terms of racking up 270 votes. If she gets up to 320, if she were able to get up to 350 electoral votes, there are some of these Senate races that some of the Senate candidates she could pull along with her. Some of these House races, in key House races, which she could pull along as well. With reapportionment, it's a tougher job in the House because some of those districts are drawn so far right that it's hard to dislodge the incumbent Republican. But again, anything could happen, and Hillary Clinton may make her margin of victory could very well make the difference.
One of the big stories that has been coming out all throughout the day and even leading up today is turnout. Turnout. In Florida, the early voting for Florida surpassed the entire vote in 2000. That's how serious it is. Virginia is already reporting what they call robust numbers in Virginia. It's a big day. And as you mentioned, just the lines you saw here in the neighborhood were record-setting.
And before today, 46.2 million Americans had voted already before Election Day. I mentioned we're going to be checking in now with a great friend of the program, a great representative, a member of the House of Representatives representing the 5th District of Minnesota, our good friend, Congressman Keith Ellison. Congressman, good to talk to you. You and I both started on the Bernie Sanders bandwagon, but we're now both there for Hillary Clinton all the way.
That's right, Bill. That's right, Bill. We're all in now. But, yeah, turnout has been really great here in Minnesota, but really all over the country. The story has been that folks are showing up to vote. We got a ground game. This person-to-person contact is really what makes a difference. And I can tell you, I'm feeling good about the day. I'm feeling good about what's going to happen tonight. I'm an optimistic sort of fellow, but I still feel that, there's a good basis to believe that we're going to have some good news tonight. But people have got to keep turning out. I mean, if you're listening to this show, you got to vote or make plans to vote or go help turn out the vote. You have to rock it until 8:00 tonight.
Absolutely. I said that at the very top of the show, Congressman. If anybody's watching who hasn't voted yet, turn the TV off and get out and vote, right? And then come baback and watch the rest of the program.
Right. That's right. Go vote. Go vote. We'll go vote.
I wanted to ask you about the ground game because,
sure.
Carol, my wife Carol, she's been out in Virginia all day, knocking on doors, getting people out to vote. There's a huge Clinton get out to vote operation in many states. Do you see that in Minnesota? And is there any sign of a Trump ground operation?
I don't see any sign of a Trump ground operation. We have a massive turnout system here in Minnesota. We really believe in turning out the vote here.
Oh yeah,
and I can tell you that, but I haven't seen a Trump program, and I think he may have one. I don't want to assume that he doesn't, but I haven't seen it. And if he does have it, he's kept it pretty far under the radar, at least around here.
Yeah. And Congressman, you've been out on the road a lot. I know I got it first for Bernie and now for Hillary. What do you see? What do you see that's at stake in this election at the presidential level?
Well, the big question, the very big question, in front of every American is: are we going to turn to each other? Are we going to turn on each other? That's the big question. Are we going to separate up and segment up and then blame each other for our problems? Or are we going to come together and try to solve them? That is the $64,000 question. And so, what Trump offers is he offers you someone to blame for your problems. Mm-hmm. If you want to blame Muslims or Mexicans or people with disabilities or women or whoever, he gives you someone to blame. But if you actually want to have your pay go up, protect Social Security, reduce the college debt, increase affordability, then, Hillary Clinton is saying, look, there's no magic wand, but if we work together, we can do it. And that's really what it's all about. And one of the things I have really appreciated about Hillary Clinton is that she has respected us Bernie folks. Bernie has been burning up the road, going all over the place, all of us, and it's all based on her willingness to cooperate with Bernie to write what I think is the best platform the Democratic Party has ever seen.
And you had a big part. You had played a big role in that, Congressman. I got to give you credit. What came out of Philadelphia is something every progressive can get behind and be proud of.
We can get behind. So that's what it's all about. I mean, we don't believe in personality-based politics anyway. We do believe it's about the movement. We do believe it's about the people. We do believe it's about the ideals that animate us. And so my thing is, after the election, we all got our work cut out, including Hillary Clinton, including Bernie, me, you, all of us, to go make this country have a fair economy, ladders of opportunity, which is not really what Trump's talking about. If somebody were to say, what is Trump's college program, college affordability program?
Yeah, right.
It's like, what? They don't even know. But he does have a program. It's called Trump University. Hook 'em, crook 'em, scam the students. If somebody said, what's his program on the environment? He says environmental regulation is ruining the economy. He said, what's his program on increasing the minimum wage? He has said that it's too high.
Yeah. Yeah, he says we don't need any minimum wage. Get rid of it.
We don't need it.
Yeah.
And so here's my thing. With folks who are like, I'm not sure. What are you not sure about? You're not sure about you want to increase the minimum wage? You want to protect the overtime rule? You want to expand Social Security? You want to strengthen collective bargaining? Because Hillary Clinton is for all those things because the Democratic platform is for all those things. So that's my question to folks who are riding the fence. I say to folks who are looking at Gary Johnson, this guy doesn't even know what Aleppo is, much less where it is.
Right. Yeah. Right.
And look, I'm not throwing any salt at the Jill Stein folks. I'm just saying she's polling at 1%. It's not happening, right?
Yeah.
So get on board, and let's go win this thing, defeat Trumpism, and then let's go implement an awesome program that everybody can get behind.
Do you have confidence that Hillary Clinton in the White House will follow through with the progressive ideas and progressive agenda that she's adopted in the primary and are reflected in the platform that you helped put together?
Answer is yes, and the reason why is because I have confidence in the people. I have positive confidence in progressive America. I think that Hillary Clinton has always wanted to. Look, this is the lady who shepherded the state children's health insurance program. Her job out of law school was with the Children's Defense Fund. I worked directly with her on protecting kids from lead who live in public housing.
Mm-hmm.
My point is, I think her instincts are to do the progressive thing.
Yep.
But every politician, including Bernie and myself and Elizabeth Warren, need folks backing them up.
Yep.
Making those calls, getting out there, staying active. We cannot say, yes, we can. Obama didn't say, yes, I can. He said, yes, we can.
Yeah.
It's always a we thing.
Yeah.
It's a we thing. And that means the activists on the ground, that means everybody.
That means we've got our job to do for the next 4 years, and we'll be there doing it. And I know, Congressman, I'll be right alongside of you. So it's good. So good.
You and me both.
You got some,
to you, man.
You got some more doors to go knock
right.
on. All right. We'll see you soon back here in Washington. Congressman Keith Ellison. He's on fire out there in Minnesota, 5th Congressional District, with some good news of how things look in Minnesota. We have, again, we told you, as it breaks, we'll bring it to you. A little bit of
This
breaking
is a
news.
Bill Press Show breaking news update.
All
All right, so
Peter, what do you got?
This is according to Jessica O., who is in Denver, a reporter for the local station there. Officials in Denver have made the announcement that all state systems are down for voting in Colorado. What they're being told right now at the Denver elections site is that people are voting, quote, one at a time. The lines are starting to get a little out of control. No word yet on how they're going to resolve that, but they are going one at a time right now. Remember, a very, 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 very important thing to remember on Election Day, if you are in line before the polls close, you are entitled to vote. So if you show up at 7:59 and get in line that is 30 minutes long at a place where the polls close at 8, stay in line. Do not get out of line because you can vote.
Yes. In fact, that was, that Colorado thing is troubling.
What a mess.
I hope they get that fixed fast. You think they might have done a dry run, right, to make sure the systems were working?
You would think.
By the way, this idea that if you're in line, you get to vote, was just tested and proven in Nevada, where the Trump campaign, on early voting yesterday in Clark County, there were so many people in line, particularly in the Latino districts in Clark County, which they weren't lining up to vote for Donald Trump, that the Trump campaign filed a lawsuit, went into court, and wanted the judge to shut them down, basically saying they kept the polling places open too long, and the judge tossed them out, threw them out of court, and said, she found it offensive what they were suggesting, and reaffirmed the fact that our tradition is, you're in line, you get to vote.
Yeah, really quickly.
Remember that.
Some other breaking news. Some of the exit polling is coming out now. I'm going to use the Politico exit poll stuff that they just released. They polled nearly 14,000 early and Election Day voters, asked a bunch of different questions, asked when they thought about Trump. What word would you use to describe Donald Trump? 81%.
I couldn't say it on the air.
81% stubborn, 78% arrogant. When we go to Hillary Clinton, the top word for Hillary Clinton, knowledgeable, 68%.
Wait a minute, not crooked?
Not crooked. Knowledgeable. Yeah. After that is stubborn, then the phrase changes her mind, and then has the right experience. So not bad.
No.
Look, these are exit polls, and who knows how far they'll take you, but that's interesting to
absolutely. Again, this is our Bill Press Election Special, and it's so good to be with you for this very special program. I want to remind you, you can follow us all day long and every day not only on Free Speech TV, every morning we're on from 6 to 9 a.m. East Coast time. Our third hour is usually at this time a recast of our third hour on Free Speech TV. But you can also follow us on our video stream, youtube.com/The Bill Press Show. And please, check it out right now. Check it out today. Make a note of it. Do it right now or later today. youtube.com/The Bill Press Show. And sign up, subscribe, become part of the team because we'll be sending you little updates, a little bit of video and columns and stuff all throughout the day to those who subscribe to youtube.com/The Bill Press Show. Again, just to put things, again, in perspective a little bit in a couple of areas. I mentioned about the history that this is such an important day that we do every 4 years, and this example that we show the world. It's also, we're making history in another way today, of course. I firmly believe, the results aren't in yet, I firmly believe we're going to make history in electing the first female president of the United States, and that is huge, as Bernie might say. I mean, 8 years ago we made history by electing the first African-American president, and now one more step making history in electing the first woman president of the United States, catching up, by the way, with the rest of the world, where women have led these countries and done it well for years, and the United States has just been lagging behind. But, I was thinking this morning, I was coming into the studio, that there are young people today who came of age to vote, maybe 2007, 2008. They voted for Barack Obama. Then they voted to reelect Barack Obama. Yeah, like Jamie here, right?
That's me.
And now they vote for, we hope, Hillary Clinton today. They will have voted 3 times for president and not voted for a white male. And as a white male, I say, damn straight. That is progress. That is great. I mean, that is, and it's just unheard of. Whoever thought we would get there? And, maybe they'll never have a chance to vote for another white male at the top of the ticket. But I think it is it's really great. A couple of other things to put this in perspective. I mentioned with Congressman Keith Ellison, I started out as a Bernie supporter. And I'll tell you why. It wasn't anti-Hillary at all. I supported Bernie because I thought we needed a new voice out there. I thought we needed somebody who would take the progressive flag and run with it. And it might have been Elizabeth Warren. But it turned out she didn't run, so Bernie ran, and that's why I support him. I wanted to get those progressive ideas out in the mix. And boy, Bernie decided to run. You may have heard me talk before about his very first meeting to put together his campaign was held at our living room about a block from here in Washington, D.C. But none of us thought at that little meeting that he would go out there and be as hugely successful as he can. His campaign took off. And he got, think about this, he won 21 primary contests. He got over 13 million votes. He got 1,876 delegates and raised $216 million with an average contribution of $27, would you please? And he made the progressive agenda the agenda for the Democratic Party, and Hillary Clinton adopted it, and we have it in the platform now. It was a huge success. And that primary challenge, I believe, was good for Hillary, good for the Democratic Party, and good for the country. And now we're at the point where a vote for Hillary, I believe, is not just, it's so important. It's not just a vote against Donald Trump. It's a vote for the most qualified, the most experienced, the best prepared presidential candidate in the history of this country. Think about it. Her entire life has been preparing her to be president of the United States. A career in public service, as Congressman Keith Ellison pointed out. From the time she was in high school and then in college, and then she's First Lady of Arkansas, First Lady of the United States, U.S. Senator from New York, reelected U.S. Senator from New York. And she is Secretary of State of the United States for 4 years. I mean, she is ready to go on day one in terms of working with Congress, in terms of issues important to this country, and ready to go on the world stage from day one as well. So we have never had anybody so experienced, so ready to govern. And yes, I believe with Congressman Ellison too that she's a progressive at heart. Given her chance to govern on her own, she'll stick to that progressive agenda. And you know what? If she starts to veer a little bit, as all politicians sometimes do, well, guess what? Bernie will be there. Elizabeth Warren will be there. Keith Ellison will be there. Sherrod Brown will be there. I'll be there, and you'll be there, and together we'll do the right thing. That then gets us to the other guy, Donald Trump. Yeah, I mean, we're at the end of the road, but we got to admit, this is not an election that we are going to look back and really be proud of, because one political party nominated the exact opposite of Hillary Clinton, the least qualified, right? The least prepared, the most unhinged candidate ever to run for president of the United States.
Hey, Bill, before we go to our guests, I do want to do a quick little update here. Jessica O., who was tracking the issue in Colorado,
Yes.
She says, from the Denver elections office, the system is up and running again. We don't know if it's fully fixed throughout the state, but the elections office is saying their system is up and running again.
That is good news.
Great
news.
It
was a momentary glitch, we hope, just like happens to most of our computers.
That's
right?
it.
It is a great fun being part of the free speech team. We are honored to do so and to start the day off every day on Free Speech TV. But we're also honored to welcome to our special election coverage this evening another one of our Free Speech team, a colleague at Free Speech, who is the host of Rising Up on Free Speech TV, Sonali Kolhacker, and joins us on our news line this morning. Sonali, this morning. Here I am. It's not morning. This is a special afternoon program. Hi, Sonali. Good to talk to you.
Thank you so much for having me on.
So what do you think? How do you feel? What's your gut tell you?
I'm vacillating between depressed and optimistic. Depressed, just depressed because of what's been unleashed by the Trump candidacy. Optimistic because if you look at, say, young voters, people, they are so sharply much more progressive than an older generation. If you look at the Latino vote today, that is out in historic numbers. The Trump effect may have inadvertently strengthened progressives if we take advantage of the momentum while it's there. So, but then at the same time, the kinds of racist incidents that we're seeing take place around the country like almost never before in our modern era, it just depresses you that even if Trump loses, there's been something that has been emboldened in this country that is not really going away, at least for a while.
No, I agree. I feel maybe more positive than you, but at the same time, this stink is going to stay around for a while, right? I mean, he has unearthed some attitudes, right, and even behavior patterns in this country that maybe some of us thought were behind us, right? And I spoke earlier on my show today with Bill Fletcher Jr., who is a longtime labor and racial justice activist who has been, who was very active in the historic civil rights movement. And he said that the last time we saw this kind of overt racism was during the fight against Jim Crow racism, when it was okay to be openly racist. And then in later years, when the Voting Rights Act was passed, it became it wasn't polite anymore to be racist in public or sexist in public. And now, with these viral videos like the one where this white driver of a car confronted a black man and just shouted in his face, Trump, Trump, called him the N-word repeatedly. That's the sort of thing that now it's okay to do again. And it just is, it's very depressing to me, very, very depressing. I think, so it doesn't end today, right? We know that. And the next couple of weeks, Sonny, wouldn't you agree, are going to be really key? First of all, to see how Trump reacts, and then how Republican Party leaders react, and then the Trump supporters react. I mean, it's either going to be a time to come together or just to, stay divided as we are. And I hope that doesn't happen.
I think that Trump himself is seeing the writing on the wall. This is where I become optimistic that Trump sort of realizes that he needs to just do what is expected of him, which is even when he loses, to accept it. Now, many have suggested that his goal out of all of this was to boost his businesses, particularly some sort of media entertainment empire.
Trump TV.
I'm not sure. I mean, he may basically be stealing Fox News' viewers, but he's, there was already been, because of his candidacy, a sort of a silent boycott of his brand. So I'm not sure how that's going to work out for him. But more broadly speaking, the people that he's emboldened, I think beyond Trump, it's that part of the American electorate, older, resentful whites without a college education, who have lost everything and don't have much economic power, and for whom the one last thing that they feel they can cling to is their racial privilege. That's the aspect of our country we need to worry about, and that can be fixed if we have clear policies and plans for better economic equality, for better economic justice, for bringing, fair jobs, union jobs, well-paid jobs, benefits, single-payer healthcare. Those things will address, I hope, at least that that anger in this community.
Yeah, and what I love is, I was just talking to Congressman Keith Ellison about that, is that Bernie Sanders brought that agenda to the Democratic Party. Bernie Sanders made that the agenda of this election, and Hillary Clinton adopted that agenda 100%. And so I really feel good about moving forward with that. And, the other thing is, the two words of her campaign, the more I think about it, stronger together, that is really, really powerful. And I think that's just what this country needs right now.
The Sanders moment was the most hopeful moment that progressives have had in a very, very long time. I started out a little skeptical of him because I just don't like getting behind candidates. I always feel like, they're politicians. Yeah. He won me over. I have to say, I was won over by Bernie Sanders. I'm still highly skeptical of Hillary Clinton. I don't like to say I'm with her because we shouldn't say we're with any politician. That implies we're getting behind them. Stand your ground, adopt, stay true to your ideals, demand the politicians get behind you. She needs to be with us, if you know what I mean. And from day one of her presidency, if she wins, we hope Trump loses, from day one of her presidency, we have to hold her to the thing that Sanders promised us was possible.
Yeah. Sounds like you still feel the burn a little bit there, somebody.
I'm contemplating. I was so proud of my mother-in-law. My mother-in-law, a second-generation Armenian-Italian in New England, wrote in Bernie Sanders on her ballot. It's a safe state, so she was able to do that, and I was really proud of her. And I'm excited, that Bernie Sanders showed us what was possible. Bernie Sanders showed the Democratic Party that you could go left and win popular votes.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, it's so good of you to join us today. Thanks so much. It means a lot to be able to talk to you, and we'll look for your take on all the election returns tonight on your show tomorrow. Thanks, Sonali.
Yes, that's right. I'm doing a Facebook Live broadcast tonight. Thanks so much.
Oh, great. All right. Good to know that. Thanks so much. Sonali Kolhatkar, host of Rising Up on Free Speech TV, here on our Bill Press election special on this Tuesday, November 8th. One of the things we put together, Jamie Benson has done this, is, it's been it's 82 weeks, believe it or not, since Hillary Clinton announced for president. A lot has gone on, and maybe we go back to the way back when machine and remind ourselves of some of the high points or low points of this campaign we've just been through. Here we go.
I am proud to announce my candidacy for President of the United States of America. Today, with your support and the support of millions of people throughout our country, we begin a political revolution.
I'm getting ready to do something, too. I'm running for president.
I am officially running for president of the United States.
They're bringing drugs, they're bringing crime, they're rapists, and some, I assume, are good people.
He's a war hero because he was captured. I like people that weren't captured, okay? I hate to tell you.
In my view, the democratic process is going to lead to him hearing what he is so fond of saying. You're fired.
He gave me his number, and I found the card. I wrote the number down. I don't know if it's the right number. Let's try it. 202.
You've called women you don't like fat pigs, dogs, slobs, and disgusting animals. Your Twitter account...
Only Rosie O'Donnell. She starts asking me all sorts of ridiculous questions, and, you could see there was blood coming out of her eyes, blood coming out of her wherever.
You were the official in charge. Did you wipe this earth?
What, like with a cloth or something?
I don't know. Well, you know how it works digitally. Did you try to wipe the whole thing?
I don't know how it works digitally at all.
Third-party candidate on that poll, candidate named D's Nuts.
Oh, no.
Really? A candidate registered as an independent from Iowa has the legal name of D's Nuts.
No.
Only in an Orwellian Obama world full of sprinkly fairy dust blown from atop his unicorn.
I have plenty of energy. I just don't necessarily run around jumping and screaming and pounding my fist. I have had a gun held on me when I was in a Popeyes organization.
Wait, you eat Popeyes as a doctor? Was this before you were a doctor?
They said to Marco Rubio, "Are you having fun?" He's sweating like a pig. I never saw a guy sweat like this.
But I think the secretary is right. And that is that the American people are sick and tired of hearing about your damn emails.
Thank you. Me too.
You know?
May very well be that that process, by the time we get through it, closes the window on mounting a realistic campaign for president.
This is the Bill Press Show.
It is our Bill Press election special here on Free Speech TV, Tuesday, November 8th. Polls are still open all across the country. So, again, if you haven't voted yet, turn the TV off. Damn it. Go out and vote and then come back and watch the rest of it. If you have voted, good for you. 46.2 million voted even before the voting started today. But this is your last chance. We continue taking a look at what's going on with two good friends. John Allen is, well, you're just the head of Sidewire. What is this community?
That's not Joe. No. I'm head of the Community and Content Division of Sidewire.
Community and Content Division. I just know Sidewire thanks to John Allen, and he's also a columnist at Roll Call. Hi, John. Good to see you.
Good to see you, Bill.
Simone Pathé is a political reporter for Roll Call, covering the 2016 race and particularly taking a look at the Senate races too. Simone, nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
So, what's going on? Can we show my electoral map? Maybe we can start there. If you can put that up. So Peter put up a map today.
We're working on it.
We took it'll show up here pretty soon.
Coming up.
We took the battleground states, right? That are still toss-up states, right?
Okay.
And I came up with, so we started, Hillary Clinton starts at 252.
Right.
Okay. States that are pretty sure
Hard
they're going to go
blue,
Democratic, yeah. And Trump at 163. All right. You know these states better than I do. I give Trump Arizona, maybe not, but you can challenge me. Arizona, Iowa, Georgia, and Ohio, which gets him to 215. I gave Hillary Nevada, North Carolina, Florida, New Hampshire, and Michigan, which goes to 323. Tell me I'm crazy, or tell me I'm
I think that's a totally legitimate way of looking at the map. My prediction was the more conservative 303, which is she wins Florida but does not win North Carolina.
North Carolina, yeah.
And then there's always I think it also means she doesn't win New Hampshire, and she may lose a district in Maine to get 303. So, I'm playing at the margins here, but I see her winning, and I believe that my estimation is a conservative one.
Do you see a path for Donald Trump to 270?
I think the way that I would express it is he has to shoot the moon. If people are familiar with the game Hearts, where you basically have to line up all the cards of the suit, and I think the Queen of Spades. If he can do that, then he wins, but it's hard to do that, and it's hard to do that all at once. Mm-hmm. And the resources that you spend in one place take away from those you spend in another place. I just don't see it happening.
Okay. Simone?
I don't see it happening either. The question, I think, that I'm watching is whether Hillary's margins in these places are enough to boost candidates. In North Carolina, for example, can she turn out enough voters today to boost Deborah Ross, to knock off Richard Burr, who, by all accounts, has run the worst Senate campaign this cycle for a Republican? But will that be enough? I don't know.
That's interesting. So the margin of victory, her margin, may determine the control of the United States Senate.
Sure. Yeah. Easily.
It's possible. Then there's the other question, the sort of the opposite coin there of, does this play out like 96, where a lot of these Republican congressional candidates ran on the theory that they had to be a check on Hillary Clinton or 96 on Bill Clinton. And so I think we'll learn something from the exit polling on that, and certainly from the results on that. But it could be what Simone's saying is right, and it could be that some of these guys hang on because they did a good enough job selling themselves as a check on Clinton.
So it sounds like all three of us agree that 5.5 hours from now or something, when we finally are able, when the polls close in the East Coast and we're able to call some states, being from California, we're responsible for the fact that you can't call any earlier because we got screwed back in the Jimmy Carter days when Carter conceded even before the polls had closed in California that year, and everybody said, no, we can't do that again. So if
it would have made the difference.
Well, in some congressional seats it did.
Right.
A couple of congressional seats it did. Was alleged that it did at any rate. So if it goes the way we think it's going to go, and all three of us do, looking back, when we look back, either tomorrow or a year from now, what are we going to think about this campaign that we've just been through?
Oh, boy. On the House and Senate level, I think the biggest takeaway...
Let's talk about the presidential.
Oh, presidential? Okay. I mean, just the candidates. I mean, the fact that you have two candidates that are so unpopular, and yet that it was this close with Hillary Clinton, an established candidate who had presumably all the kinds of aids and infrastructure that she needed, running against someone who had never run a political campaign before.
I think we're going to look back and say that the American people chose America over some sort of unrecognizable fascist authoritarian regime, and that they did so barely. And I don't know what that means for the next 2 or 4 years, but it doesn't feel good.
Yeah. I think we're going to look back similarly and say that the Republican Party caved in and allowed themselves to be hijacked from somebody who, number one, is not even a Republican and is totally unfit and unqualified to be president of the United States. I mean, I don't think it's going to be a campaign, an election that we're going to be proud of.
I mean, it saddens me that we don't right now have two competitive political parties, two cohesive political parties. I think the two-party system, I know that there are folks who like the third and fourth parties and think we should get more of that, and that's fine. But the two-party system has generally served us pretty well over time. We've been safe, and we've grown economically, and we've got the quality of life in the United States is better than anywhere in the world, certainly for such a big and diverse nation. So, I kind of look at it, and I think to myself, the Republicans brought this on themselves by being, instead of being for smaller government, being anti-government, which became so anti-institutional. And then the people that were so used to being anti-institutional started to become anti-Republican, anti-party. And at some point, there's a nihilism that has gone on. And we saw it with the rise of the Tea Party, and we've seen it in the apotheosis of the Tea Party under Donald Trump. Yeah. I think some Republicans will get sick of that at some point. Some of the grassroots Republicans will get sick of that. They'll get tired of Democrats being in the Oval Office. That may be by 2020 that they start to get their act together again.
Yeah, I was just going to ask, do you think, Simone, that the Republican Party, there'll be enough of a sane group of Republicans left that they can I mean, Democrats have lost bigger than Donald Trump's going to lose. I mean, George McGovern got just totally wiped out, right? So do you think the Republican Party can recover, can rebuild?
I think they can. I think there's enough moderate Republicans that are still in the House and Senate that you saw express displeasure with Donald Trump this year. Perhaps not as many as the rank and file of the party would have liked, but there are still leaders out there who have condemned Trump and want to put the party forward. You've seen Paul Ryan obviously admitted that he voted for Trump, but he has made it his goal to really make the party stand for something and not just be about something, a party that is against everything. Whether that works, whether he has any say.
Maybe their ability to rebuild will depend on what Donald Trump does starting tonight.
Right. If he starts to pick a fight with the rest of the Republican Party, that's not going to be good for the Republican Party.
Or will he just walk away? Having done his thing, just say, screw it. I tried. I worked my ass off. I put in $50 million and it didn't work, and so I'm going to go back and maybe start a university.
He does seem like the kind of guy who will take other people's capital, play roulette with it, and then walk away from the table with debts unpaid. I mean, that's not. This is not out of character for Donald Trump if he does that.
Right.
I could see him walking away. I mean, look, I think he wants to have the set of people, the buying power that he has. Maybe he'll start his own brand of Walmart You know, I mean, he's talked about raising trade barriers to China, which would make it impossible for a lot of his constituents to afford the basic necessities of life. But he now has a lot of people following him that might buy his things. I think you're more likely to see something along those lines than him fighting for the soul of the Republican Party. Yeah, and I think the Republican Party's health will come from its constituency, from the grassroots. There has to be change at that level.
Yeah.
So that you have it's more than just Ben Sass in Nebraska or Jeff Flake in Arizona who feel that their constituents will reward them for standing apart from Trump.
Yeah. I would hope, too, that at some point some of the same people you were talking about are going to say, all right, look, come on, we've had enough of that impeachment nonsense. We've had enough of those email hearings yet. Let's get our own agenda. But
I mean, Bill,
that may be asking too much.
I mean, how many times did you call for George W. Bush to be impeached, and was it your sole obsessive focus for the 8 years of the Bush
I didn't call for him once to be impeached.
That's what I'm saying. So, like, on the other side, you've got the Rush Limbaughs and the Sean Hannitys of the world that are going to stir up the constituents to go put pressure on their members. And if you're Paul Ryan or anybody else in the House leadership, you have to figure out how to deal with that, and it is not easy. Yeah.
Now, I want to get to Hillary Clinton a week or 2 weeks from now. But first, I think we move to your area, Simone, in this because what she may be able to accomplish is going to depend up to a great extent on whether she's got a House and a Senate to work with. I think we agree she won't have a Democratic House to work with. So what the Senate, what are some of those races you're looking at, and let's talk about them.
I think everyone agrees the Senate is still pretty close. Dems probably have a slight advantage at this point, but the big seats we're looking at, as I mentioned earlier, North Carolina, New Hampshire obviously is going to come down to the wire. Nevada looks like it's tilting in Democrats' direction after strong early voting there from the Hispanic population. Pennsylvania, of course, is another one. 2 seats that Democrats had hoped to make competitive this year, Ohio and Florida, are pretty much off the table for them, especially Ohio.
Mm-hmm. But 2 other states, and we'll come back to some of those states, that maybe we didn't expect to be competitive now are.
Yes.
I'm thinking of Indiana and Missouri.
And Missouri, right. These are 2 red states that if you told Democrats a year ago that they would be contesting seriously, I think they would have been shocked to hear that.
And yet at the same time, you have this fascinating dynamic where where in Missouri the Republican is an incumbent, and in Indiana the Democratic challenger for the seat, because it's a Republican-held seat, is actually a former senator who suffers from the incumbency problem and the establishment problem, and it's not clear what's going to happen with those. Roy Blunt is running way behind Donald Trump in Missouri, whereas Evan Bayh doesn't have quite the same problem with Hillary Clinton in Indiana. Certainly running behind her, but probably not the same deal. I think trying to figure out what goes on in the heartland in those 2 Senate races tomorrow morning will be fascinating stuff. But clearly those states want to throw the bums out as much as possible.
Right. So we may have a situation, maybe I should make this a question, where we'll know relatively early about the Oval Office, and maybe we'll be still tomorrow morning trying to figure out what happens to the Senate.
It's
or late
possible.
late tonight.
Yeah.
I mean, you figure Illinois and Wisconsin are in the Democratic basket, right, Simone? Yes. So I think Pennsylvania probably also, and we'll get relatively early results from Pennsylvania. If New Hampshire falls Democratic, then you're starting to probably look at a Democratic Senate, and you might know early. If it doesn't, you may have to wait for those heartland states. But I don't think there's anything, I guess Nevada, waiting to see if the Republicans pick up the Reed seat. Right. If Republicans win Nevada, Democrats probably don't win the Senate, right? I mean, it makes that mountain harder to climb.
Much steeper, yeah.
If Republicans win Nevada.
Right, if it's a flip to the Republicans of that seat, you're taking a seat off the board and adding one to the number the Democrats have to get.
Which may be North Carolina.
Could be North Carolina. Yeah, it's looked like it's tilting a little bit more in Richard Burr's direction in the last polling that I've seen, but I think turnout is really going to have a big effect there. Whether African Americans, whether young people, whether Hillary's coalition turns out for Deborah Ross could make a difference.
What happened what is going on in Wisconsin? At one time, everybody said, "Oh, Illinois I think we agree Tammy Duckworth, it looks like, is going to be the next senator from Illinois. And it's looked that way for a long time. At one time, everybody said, Illinois and Wisconsin, oh, they're in the bag. They're in the bag. And suddenly Wisconsin tightened up. Somebody put a lot of money in there, or what happened, John? Or Simone?
I think that's part of it. I think Russ Feingold is, I think he's
another former senator.
Another former senator. He suffers from the same problem. And, you know, Russ Feingold was the guy that pushed campaign finance reform. He was a reformer on a variety of fronts. He did a pretty good job of following in the footsteps of the previous Wisconsin reformers, I guess the La Follette model, and yet he is seen as of Washington. And he spent, I think, the last couple of years at the State Department, if I'm not mistaken, or as an ambassador, special ambassador to
the Great Lakes
region of Africa. So not the Great Lakes of the industrial Midwest.
Sub-Saharan Africa.
Lake Kivu or something, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, I mean, he's seen as of Washington now. And Ron Johnson, who's been in Washington for 6 years, continues to seem like an outsider because he says things that are not the things people who are educated in the ways of Washington would say.
Right. And Democrats need, as we've heard so many times, 4 seats if Hillary Clinton is in the White House.
Yes.
Because Tim Kaine would be the tiebreaker, or 5 were Donald Trump.
She's not, right.
And certainly they want more than 4, 5 or 6, right?
Right.
No matter who's in the White House,
right.
They would want 5 or 6. Well, so, and on the House, it's interesting. Congressman Tim Ryan from Ohio was on the show a couple of days ago, and I asked him about the House, and he's the first Democrat in leadership to me that was totally honest, and he said, we're not going to win the House. Probably 15 seats is what we hope for. Would you agree?
I'd say that's high.
Whoa, okay.
Well, at least you didn't say he's high.
Maybe he was.
He may have been.
I just came from a press conference with Leader Pelosi, and she tried to make the argument that before the Comey letter came out, Democrats were on the path to picking up 20 or more seats. I think that's incredibly unrealistic. I don't think they were going to pick up that many seats at that point. There's no evidence they were leading in that many districts.
Mm-hmm. So she thinks that with the Comey letter out now that it will be...
Right. She's blaming the Comey letter for depressing their chances of taking back the House. She admitted tonight that looks really tough to take back the majority, but even getting 20 seats, I think, is quite high.
How could we get? This question is, I should say, how could I get this far into this discussion without asking you both the impact of the Comey letter, the Comey letters? Did the first one make any difference, and did the second one make any? So did he hurt Hillary the first time, and did he issue the second letter in time to help her this time? I don't know.
First we had the XYZ affair, now the FBI affair. Picking out new letters.
No, I think we have the CYA affair.
I agree. Look, the big mistake Comey made was the original mistake, which was when he decided to not recommend prosecution, which any FBI director would have done. He decided that he was going to go out there and chastise Hillary Clinton publicly and talk about her case openly. And then he was stuck because he went out and said to Congress, this case is closed. Well, anybody who's an investigator knows that there's always a possibility new evidence will come up. They got some new evidence, didn't turn out to be anything, and now he looks awful.
Yeah.
And he did not protect his bureau.
And
his
FBI
bureau looks terrible.
Bad. Right. And it looks like, Simone, that he sort of lost control of the FBI there.
It does. There's been extreme backlash from even members of his own party to his actions in really unprecedented way, I would say.
Also, he's in a terrible position because he's got all these rogue FBI agents who are like, oh, this book Clinton Cash came out. That's a reason to start an investigation. Well, we got some hearsay from this other wiretap. This is crazy. I mean, literally, there's a direct line from Steve Bannon to the FBI investigation, Steve Bannon being Trump's campaign manager, with not a lot in between. That should not be happening. And look, they should investigate anything, but if they wanted to investigate all those ties and the conflict of interest questions, there were much more legitimate sources than the Clinton Cash book to find enough smoke to start looking.
Right. Does he still have a job November 9?
That's a good question.
It's up to him.
Yeah, don't you think Hillary Clinton might have something to say about it, too?
She's not going to fire him. I don't think she can fire him. But I think he might resign. I think he might determine that he can't run the FBI.
He does have a 10-year term. But if he got a call from Hillary Clinton's chief of staff saying, we think the president thinks it would be good if you were to step down. He'd have to do it, wouldn't he?
Is there anything else in government you'd like to do in the new administration?
What was that, Great Lakes region?
Exactly. Do you have any friends in the Congo?
All right, Jamie.
I think we're going to go to our next guest. Yeah,
we are. All right,
we're going to.
good.
David Pakman's on the line right now. John and Simone, I guess we're all good with you guys. Thank you so much for.
Oh
the
my
updates.
God! You see who's running the show, don't you?
Yeah, see that?
Right.
It's always Jamie.
Listen.
Only when his mom is listening.
By the way, my mom is listening. She says you clean up nice.
Oh, that's so sweet of her.
Yeah.
That's nice. Thank you. Thank you so much.
And how about me? I wore a tie the first time I've worn a tie in the history of
And
this
you,
program.
Bill. Sorry.
Well, thank you, Mom. All right.
It's just that I look so much worse usually.
John Allen, great to see you. Thanks so much for coming in. Bye, Simone. Thank you.
Thank you.
And we'll know soon. All right. And talk again soon. Thank you, guys. Yes, indeed. We mentioned Free Speech TV. This is our extravaganza, our super election special here on Free Speech TV, which I am proud to be part of. And another great host on Free Speech TV, David Pakman of the David Pakman Show, joining us on our news line again here this afternoon. David, what's going on? How are you?
Good. How are you? It's so great to be with you.
Thank you. Thanks so much for joining us. Maybe you heard a little bit of our conversation about James Comey and this race and everything. So John and Simone feel that the numbers look like they're in Hillary Clinton's favor from what you see, from what you hear around the country today. Do you think it's moving that way?
I do. I mean, unless everything that we are learning is wrong and wrong pretty significantly,
Yeah.
that's the way it looks. You know, my final map is Clinton 322, Trump 216, and that's with that one electoral vote from Maine going to Donald Trump, and that's my prediction.
Well, I got to tell you, I'm only one off from you. Mine is 323 to 215. I guess as Maine goes, so goes the nation, right?
Yeah,
absolutely. We're both in the same ballpark. I mean, it would. I just don't see any path at all to Donald Trump. Well, so how badly have we been, as a nation, David? Do you think have been hurt by this campaign? Because it certainly hasn't been a campaign that we can really be proud of. And I blame it all on Donald Trump. But I mean, how badly has the nation been hurt by his candidacy? Do you believe?
It's pretty bad, and you know, as concerning as the Trump policy ideas to the extent that they exist are, the real concern to me under a President Trump would be the group that would be emboldened and sort of coalesced and feel that their extremist views are legitimized and how they would act in the real world under a President Trump. I think that should be as much, if not more of a concern than a lot of the Trump policies. Much of what Trump says he would do, he wouldn't be able to do, right? I mean, that's just sort of the reality. Some he would, some merely trying to do would be damaging. But that coalition of Trump supporters that is sort of emboldened in their extremist beliefs by the primary and success to date of the Trump campaign is really concerning to me.
And to me, I mean, I think that for a long time we're going to be trying to figure out. I mean, we've seen this guy, how ugly he is, how divisive he is, how unprepared and unfit he is to govern. But it's particularly this tearing people apart, right, and attacking people and pitting people and groups one against the other that's so troubling. And yet, David, he's going to end up with maybe 36 million people voting for him, right?
Yeah, that's the really scary part, which is even Donald Trump could suffer a very significant electoral defeat tonight. We don't know yet. We'll start to figure that out in the next couple of hours.
Yeah.
But in the worst case scenario, there will be tens of millions of people who look at the candidates and they look at the country and they say, this is the person I'm going to vote for. And no matter who wins, those tens of millions of votes are still from people that will continue to live in the United States under whoever is the next president, and that is really something that is going to have an impact during the next 4 years.
If Hillary wins, as you and I believe that she will, you know, she's got an uphill battle. Maybe, let's hope, she gets a Democratic Senate. She's not going to have a Democratic House. There are Republicans already, you've heard the calls. I mean, crazy people calling for impeachment hearings or for more email hearings. It's going to be a tough road for her. How do you see it?
Yeah, I mean, if you were disturbed, as I have been, about the obstructionism under President Obama's two terms, what we're going to see under a potential President Hillary Clinton is going to be even worse, I would argue. And we've already heard hinting at maybe keeping Supreme Court vacancies open for years longer than the longest we've ever seen.
Yeah.
And we have to go pretty far back to even see that. We are going to see, of course, there's this vicious circle where Republican obstructionism led President Obama to need to use executive orders, still to a lesser degree than many of his predecessors, and then he is criticized for using executive orders. That vicious circle is only going to be more noticeable under a hypothetical President Clinton.
Yeah, the idea that even a John McCain, right, whom I don't know why, but I still have a little bit of respect for, right?
Same here.
That he would suggest that they would go 4 years without confirming any Supreme Court nominee put forward by Hillary Clinton is just irresponsible. I mean, totally. And he's not alone in thinking that way.
Even what we've seen already is sort of irresponsible. This idea that voters already decided from January of 2013 through January of 2017, President Obama gets to decide who has confirmation hearings for the Supreme Court.
Right.
The idea that because we're within a year of January 2017, we now need to wait for the next president, even that at its basis it's flatly absurd.
No, it is, and yet they've gotten away with it. At least so far. With Merrick Garland, and who knows what happens in this so the lame duck session. I guess what is going to what's going to break this cycle, David? I mean, what is it going to take to break this cycle? It wasn't that long ago when in between campaigns, right? In Washington, people of different political persuasion could still sit down together, and work out solutions to problems. I mean, even a Trent Lott, right, or a Bob Dole, right, and a Tom Daschle or a George Mitchell, Senate leaders, could work together. Not this gang today. What's it going to take to break that, do you think?
Well, I mean, I think it's going to be changes that are unlikely to happen. I think some combination of term limits and instant runoff voting is sort of what big picture needs to happen. And I'm probably thinking way bigger than what's even practical for the next 4 years, right? No matter whether it's Trump or Clinton tonight, we're not going to see these changes in the next 4 years. But I think fundamentally we need to be thinking that big.
I agree. I don't think it's. I mean, that is big, right? That's revolutionary, earthquake kind of country change. But it's going to take that, or maybe just the American people just getting fed up and throwing everybody out and starting from scratch. I don't know either. But it really frustrates me because I think all Americans are impacted by this total. It's worse than gridlock, right? It is just anti-government, anti-getting anything done, and just stopping the whole process and letting it just die. It's troubling. Well, hopefully today we can get a new direction. David Pakman of the David Pakman Show. David, we will hear your take and look forward to your take tomorrow on everything that happens tonight. And it's good to catch up with you today. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks so much. It's been a pleasure.
All right, David Pakman of the David Pakman Show on Free Speech TV. This is our Free Speech TV election special, of course. And remember, we're coming to you live from our studio where we do the Bill Press Show every day here in Washington, D.C. You can also follow us on our video stream, youtube.com/The Bill Press Show. Check it out. Sign up, subscribe, be a member of the Bill Press Show team. We've been telling you that every once in a while we're going to just kick back, remind ourselves of this long slog we've been through in this 2016 election. The good and the bad, the highs and the lows. You might remember these moments.
I saw that there's a Supergirl is on TV. I saw it when I was working out this morning. There's an ad promoting Supergirl. She looked pretty hot.
Following up on the Ben Carson interview yesterday, did you have you stabbed anybody or tried to stab anybody?
What's today?
Gotcha.
The person that I tried to stab, I talked to today, said would they want to be revealed. They were not anxious to be revealed.
Anybody have a knife? You want to try it on me? Believe me, it ain't going to work. You're going to be successful. Pathological is a very serious disease. And he said he's pathological. Somebody said he has pathological disease. I could say, they'd say you don't cure, as an example, child molester.
I would bring it back, yes, I would bring it back. I think waterboarding is peanuts compared to what they do to us.
Said if you could go back in time and kill baby Hitler, would you? I need to know.
And
Hell yeah, I would.
next, Jeb. Oh boy, poor Jeb. You got to admit, it's a pretty good plot twist that I turned out to be the smart one.
And you know how you make America great again? Tell Donald Trump to go to hell.
Secretary Clinton, I did want to ask you, the last time you ran for president, Fortune magazine put you on its cover with the headline, Business Loves Hillary, pointing out your support for many CEOs in corporate America. I'm curious, 8 years later, should corporate America love Hillary Clinton?
Everybody should.
Now this is getting to be fun.
This is fun.
It would be terrible if you go down all the way down the line, then you find out because of the fact that you were born in Canada. A lot of people say that natural born means you have to be born to the land.
Some of the more extreme ones insist that you must not only be born on U.S. soil, but have two parents born on U.S. soil. Under that theory, not only would I be disqualified, Marco Rubio would be disqualified, Bobby Jindal would be disqualified, and interestingly enough, Donald J. Trump would be disqualified.
Get into all that coming
Lester,
up, but we're going to take a break.
seconds,
We need to take a break,
seconds.
and when we come
All of
back,
the
the
things-
anger brewing in America.
2 Corinthians, right? 2 Corinthians 3:17. That's the whole ball game.
Mr. Trump, you're right. Look back there in the press box. Heads are spinning. Media heads are spinning. This is going to be so much fun.
They say, I have the most loyal people. Did you ever see that? Where I could stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody and I wouldn't lose any voters, okay? It's like incredible.
I'm a maniac, and everyone on this stage is stupid, fat, and ugly. And Ben, you're a terrible surgeon. Now that we've gotten the Donald Trump portion out of the way.
It's like being shot or poisoned. What does it really matter?
Putin is a one-horse country.
Homeland. I'd like to be on Homeland. Is that possible?
Yeah, we'll get you. We'll sneak you on Homeland. Yeah,
Good.
for sure. What kind of role are you looking for on Homeland?
One that's G-rated,
Okay.
for starters.
There's not many
Where
of those roles.
where I kill a terrorist with my bare hands. Is that right?
I wrote a blurb, 3 lines, of what the blurb said, if you have it in front of you, is that the next president has got to be very active in bringing people into the political process.
He wrote a foreword for a book that basically argued voters should have buyer's remorse when it comes to President Obama's leadership and legacy.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Republican candidate.
And Dr. Ben Carson, please come out on the stage. He's standing there as well. Dr. Carson.
Kasich. Can I introduce
Kasich? It's so
Kasich?
noisy in here. Yes. We're going to introduce Ohio Governor John Kasich.
She said, I never expect to hear that from you again. She said he's a That's terrible. Terrible.
So we will close this morning with word association.
I don't like this.
Trump. Word, just one word.
Loser.
Okay.
Oh, my God.
Thank you, New Hampshire.
I want to begin by congratulating Senator Sanders on his victory tonight.
This is Bernie Sanders a short time ago. Beneath the campaign headquarters as they're at the victory party, he is playing hoops with his 2 adult sons and 7 grandkids. This is the 74-year-old Vermont senator who is getting ready to give a big victory speech tonight.
Right now, today, as a candidate, he supports federal taxpayer funding for Planned Parenthood. I disagree with him on that. That's a matter of principle, and I'll tell you.
Biggest liar. You probably are worse than Jeb Bush. You are the single. For instance, this guy, Lindsey Graham. You have a guy, he's one of the dumbest human beings I've ever seen. I could push him over with a little thimble. Boom.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Hey, here we go now. Continuing our election special here on Free Speech TV. I'm Bill Press. Good to have you with us. We're coming to you live from our nation's capital, Washington, D.C., and our studio right here on Capitol Hill. In the shadow of the Capitol Dome, this special live Election Day broadcast with a lot of our good friends to take a look at what's going on and make sense of it all. Joined now by a panel will be with us for the next. Now, look, Donald Trump has attacked Latinos, he has attacked African Americans, and he's particularly attacked women. He thinks he can win without all three constituencies. He is counting on the white surge to carry him across the finish line today. How's that going to work out? Well, we've got three people here who might have a different opinion. Let's see. I'm going to start on my left because I always turn left because I am left. Vann Newkirk is staff writer for The Atlantic. Hello, Vann. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Welcome back to the studio. Marcy Stetch is the vice president of communications at Emily's List, the great Emily's List. You have been very, very busy this season.
Yeah. I don't even know what time it is, where I am. Who are you? It's just been busy.
Yeah. We're not just a woman at the top of the ticket, but so many other women. We'll talk about as many as we can in this hour. And Kristian Ramos is the communications and outreach director of Inclusion Matters at Media Matters.
Yes.
Hey, Kristian.
It's great to be here.
You. Okay. So let me start with you. I've seen pictures of the long lines, particularly in the Latino districts in Las Vegas and in Clark County, Nevada, and in Miami. Are all these Latinos, what's sparking them to come out and vote? Are they lining up to vote for Donald Trump?
They go low, we go vote. I think that's really the story of this election. We're going to carry this thing through. I mean, it's interesting from a media standpoint in that I think, without a doubt, one of the big stories of this election cycle is going to be that Latinos turned out in record numbers, certainly in an early vote. We'll see what happens with the election as the night goes on. But it's a fascinating dichotomy because as you see this occur, on the other side of it, in terms of media representation, you're not really seeing Latinos, except for you, thank you, Bill, for having me, talking about this critically important thing. But you're absolutely right. In Florida, in Nevada, in Colorado, in Arizona, they are literally changing the map today.
Mm-hmm. I do have to say, because I also wear a CNN hat once in a while, right? That at CNN, Ana Navarro from Miami has been very much a part of CNN's coverage. I've been on several panels with her.
Right.
And Maria Cristina, I forget her last
name. Maria Cardona. She's part of our Latina Advisory Council, Emily's List. Yeah.
It's so funny because we're good friends. I just blanked on her name. Maria Cardona has been there very much too, speaking on those very issues. So I just
no. I mean, you're absolutely right, and there are moments where it's good, but just for today, for example, a lot of the morning shows, Media Matters put out this study that basically highlighted the fact that by far and away, one of the top stories was that Latinos are turning out for early vote and so on and so forth, and there were not many Latinos.
Well, Vann, one of the other side of the stories, there were a lot of stories that saying African Americans were not turning out in the numbers that they did in 2008 or 2012. To which I almost wanted to just say, duh.
Duh. Right.
Right? Yeah.
Well, 2012 was historic. 2012 was historic. And 2008 was historic. And I think you have to you can't use those as baselines for looking at turnout now. And I think also what's happening is people are sort of saying, oh, why aren't you motivated to vote, black people? But turnout's always been low because of structural factors. And they also miss the story like in North Carolina with Latino voters who are turning out in record numbers and trying to figure out what's happening. And I think people have just fallen all over the place with this one.
But there also have been some obstacles thrown in the way, right, of people of early voting, particularly in North Carolina.
Yeah, cutting polling places by 70% in some counties will do that. And we saw that in the first week, especially in southern states, where black people were sort of trying to catch up to old numbers and to white voters and to Latino voters because in especially black communities on the coast that were hit by the hurricane also. You hit by a hurricane and you only have, 2 polling places in your county. How are you going to vote?
Mm-hmm. Are there any reports today? Is voting is it going smoothly today? Or have there been, because there were rumors that that the Trump campaign was going to be sending people out, maybe even people with guns, right, to kind of intimidate people. That was kind of make me think twice about standing in line, maybe. But
so I did hear a couple of rowdy sort of poll observers in Philadelphia, but most of the stories I've gotten out of Virginia, North Carolina, and Florida have been they got DOJ people on the ground. They have activists who are working overtime right now to make sure that they can vote safely and without intimidation. And I think that's the story happening right now. Is most people are doing pretty well.
And Marcy, there have never been so many women perhaps running for Senate, for House, and for President.
It is historic levels.
Yeah, right. Plus, there's never been a female candidate at the top of the ticket of a major political party. And women's issues have never been such the centerpiece of a presidential campaign as they have this year. Not always positive stuff coming from both candidates, but so are women really motivated to get out? How do you read it? What are you hearing?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I've been seeing social feeds of mine, whether it's Instagram, Facebook, of a lot of women, young women, some of my mom's friend posting selfies of voting and talking about how important and how symbolic this day is for so many of us who've been working in this movement. I think that, there's going to be some sort of impulse by folks to say, well, it's just because of Donald Trump. If Donald Trump hadn't been the actual candidate, that, she probably wouldn't have won this thing if she does win, which I do believe she is going to win tonight. And that's just not true. I mean, there have been women and good men, too, who've been laying this foundation for decades now. Emily's List has been at this for 31 years. And you have to build a pipeline. You have to recognize the power of women voters and that women voters decide elections. We do day in and day out, election cycle after election cycle. And I think that this is a day and a moment that we should rightly be able to claim as ours and not just a result of a misogynist who happened to become the Republican nominee for president. I know that one of my favorite stories of the day is the Susan B. Anthony's.
I was just going to raise that. Yeah, tell us about that because it's so exciting. Yeah,
it's just amazing. It's blown up. You've got a line of hundreds of people who are going to go to Susan B. Anthony's grave to put their "I voted" stickers on her grave to really pay respects and homage to the movement.
Who led the movement to give women the right to vote.
Yeah, and that is the type of story that I think I don't want to get buried in. What I could imagine will be a really tough couple of days for Donald Trump, in which we know he doesn't have any self-restraint.
And there's a story in this morning's paper, The Post, of a woman who was born like the day women got the right to vote, and she was still here and still alive to vote for Hillary Clinton. I mean, there's stories like that are just amazing.
I wanted to follow up on some of the things she was saying, because I think she's absolutely correct when she's talking about the foundation that's been laid for a lot of these things to occur. But I want to take that and expand it a little further, because what I think is interesting about this election more than any is it's really highlighting the ascendance of the new American majority. And it's interesting because we currently, right now, are talking about these three groups in sort of a siloed approach, right? We got the African American vote, the women vote, the Latino vote. The reality is, in 2020, whoever is going to win the White House is going to have to put together some version of this coalition to win. If anything,
this coalition around this table.
This coalition, that coalition, but LGBT,
the groups, these groups. The new American majority is probably the wrong way to describe this. But what I'm saying is, politics is about arithmetic, math, right? You've got to add people to your group,
right? And
America, as it is today, if you're going to want to win, you have to add people from all of these different groups to your tally. It's no longer this thing where these coalitions or these constituencies are siloed in the way that they once were. And I think that's a big part of this election. And I think that's why Trump is going to have such a hard time winning.
Well, my impression is that Democrats are getting that message.
Yeah.
If they don't already have it.
Yes.
The Republican Party.
No.
Clueless. Clueless.
No, and if you look at it through the lens of sort of what we all tend to, and rightfully so, I've said it sometimes too, women's issues, right? Like women's issues are like a separate bucket. they're not a separate bucket. And I think in 2016 we've expanded this intersectionality in a way that has been really productive for the party, and it lays a good foundation for the future. It shows that we are ahead of the game. Women's issues are economic issues. They are family issues. They impact every single type of racial demographic. And we need to, as a party, continue to have that conversation and not just see it as about, well, which groups do we need to win? This is about, what's right and how we can capitalize on the progressive movement.
And that's true of Latino issues and of African American issues and of LGBT issues, right?
Yeah,
They're not
absolutely.
They don't just impact the people in that silo, right?
It's intersections. Yeah, I mean, you look at LGBT issues. One of the most vulnerable groups of LGBT people are immigrants, recent LGBT immigrants. Also, you look at women's issues, the bucket. We think about working class women who are most vulnerable. Those are women of color. And all these issues are at the intersection, and thinking about them in terms of, like you said, what's right, and not who do we please, who do we tick off the box. That's really where the next turn of politics and how we think about the arithmetic is. Right. That's where we're headed.
And to build off of that, I think what is fascinating about this is you have a conservative movement, a conservative ideology, right, which is really beholden to what many have called right-wing media, or these talk show radio hosts, which, maybe Trump did us a favor this cycle because he's really pulled that back and revealed it to be not just right-wing media, but white supremacists, KKK, anti-Semitics, you name it.
Alt-right.
All of those. But I don't even like using the term alt-right because they're white supremacists. I don't want them to be able to rebrand.
Yeah.
And that's really where we are right now. And that the contrast is very clear.
Yeah, I think one of the things I think about a lot with the Donald Trump and the sort of contours of this race and the way that we've defined him as a candidate, there was this real effort to say that, well, he's not like your normal Republican. He's not like your grandfather's Republican Party. But the reality is that we know the foundation on which he has been able to climb on to get to be the Republican nominee. He is the leader of the Republican Party. On Wednesday, tomorrow, when we wake up,
they paved the way for him.
Absolutely. They do not get a free pass and get to say, well, you know what, that's over. That chapter's over. You know what, those policies are still there, that the anger, the white supremacists, the KKK, it is all there, and it's not going to go away overnight. And we have to continue to brand the Republican Party for what it is and not just say, well, Donald Trump was just one guy who had these crazy ideas. There is support, and that is the Republican Party moving forward.
Well, and I think what's interesting about... Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. I'll get you.
I'll take it. So if you look at a recent 2 weeks ago, I think it was 2 weeks ago, Bloomberg poll, it confirms exactly what you're saying, is Republican voters, a majority of Republican voters said that the vision of the party that was theirs was Donald Trump's. Not Paul Ryan's, was Donald Trump's. And actually the person they said would lead that vision was Mike Pence. These are not people we think of as, sort of beltway Republicans, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But what I was going to follow up to both of those comments is what I find fascinating is, and I didn't really put all this together until, I did some research for Media Matters, is misogyny is a big part of sort of the white supremacist KKK movement. I was aware that they did not like people that looked like myself. I was not aware of sort of the general misogyny was there. But then if you look back at the GOP-controlled Congress, it's there. If you look at those laws in Virginia where they're doing the invasive ultrasounds. Yeah. I mean, that's literally in line with, a lot of this white supremacist KKK thinking, which is like women shouldn't be able to be allowed to make the decisions for themselves or any of this stuff. And it's kind of crazy.
You come back to, I thought listening to you, that after 2012, Reince Priebus commissioned this study. How did we go wrong? And the study which became famously known as the autopsy report, which I always thought was funny because you do not do an autopsy on a live human being or organization, said we really failed. We've got to reach out now to grow as a party. We have to reach out to women. We have to reach out to Latinos. We have to reach out to African Americans, particularly on immigration reform. We have to lead the way. And this party today is 180 degrees from that autopsy report. Exact opposite direction on every level. Mm-hmm. Duh. I mean, and as Lindsey Graham said, if we don't do this, we will never have a chance of winning the White House again.
It's actually amazing thinking about the idea that Donald Trump might pull in fewer white voters than Mitt Romney. That is, I mean, more white voters, and might fewer minority voters than Mitt Romney.
Yes.
Rather, right? And that's just absolutely amazing because Reince Priebus was right. They were maybe at the bottom of their demographic limits and feasibility in 2012, and now we're looking at an even wider Republican electorate.
But that's why I go back to this ideology, right? Reaganism, all of that stuff is gone. And it's been replaced by Rush Limbaugh. It's been replaced by Sean Hannity. And when you go to sort of the core, the nexus of what these guys believe in, and you illustrated it perfectly by referencing that Bloomberg poll, they really do believe build a damn wall, take away women's rights, get rid of Roe v. Wade, get rid of the ability for the LGBTQ community to get married. All of these things, which are not even really policies when you think about it, they're slogans that these radio hosts have been spouting for 10, 20 years. That's the conservative movement. That's the Republican Party today.
How does Hillary meet that challenge?
I think that she has, first off, she has adopted the most progressive platform in Democratic history. And I think looking at it through the lens of how this impacts women and access to reproductive care, which we know is on the forefront and now is, a number one priority for Republicans to roll back. I think that Hillary, as president of this country, will work to expand that access. I believe that she will do things and everything she can to do things like repeal the Hyde Amendment, which, limits many low-income women from getting access to abortion care that they need. I actually think that Hillary Clinton is well positioned to be able to make some inroads on some of these progressive policies that we see because she understands them at a ground level. Now, the challenge, of course, being that we may have leadership in the House and potentially in the Senate, although I think we are in a good position to take that back tonight. We will have leadership that is laser focused on trying to make the agenda about anything but policies. It's going to be about everything that has to do with Hillary Clinton and nothing that has to do with serving the American people. I don't think that they have the ability to control themselves.
One of the things that has struck me in the last couple of days is that she's been talking about the challenge starting tomorrow morning, or maybe is bringing this, that she sees as her challenge, will be bringing people back together again, bringing the country back together. She doesn't say, my job will be to take everything Democrats want and go and fight for it and get it, right? She says healing and bringing people back together. Whereas Donald Trump's just going in the opposite direction until the very end, pitting people against each other. But I was struck then by, and it hadn't really struck, just the last couple of days I realized, I think, how powerful her little slogan is, 2 words, stronger together. Think about it, right?
Yeah.
We
Absolutely.
are, or we're not.
Right.
And right now, thanks to Donald Trump, we're not.
Well,
but that's the only way to move forward. I think it's very powerful.
I would add one other thing, which is Hillary Clinton's an adult. She's governed. She's actually had to negotiate and work with other adults. And everything else that you could possibly say about Donald Trump, he does not work well with others. He seems to have a proclivity for lawsuits if he doesn't agree with you. And
look at him just the last couple of days. I mean, she's had everybody from, Beyonce to
John Bon Jovi,
Bruce
Bruce Springsteen, Katy Perry.
You name it.
Yeah.
Not to mention Barack Obama, Michelle Obama, Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, and Donald Trump's been out there bragging about it's just me.
And the polls, me and the polls.
Yeah.
Which are rigged now.
All the polls.
I'm all alone. So I'm just thinking, so we, 2008, we elected our first African-American president. 2016, I believe, we're going to elect our first female president. 2024, our first Latino president.
Oof, that's an excellent query there. Question. I don't know. What? Here's
or LGBT president.
I say yes, absolutely, but
or another woman or another African American. I guess what I'm getting to: are we ever going to see another white male president again? And you know what? If we don't, I don't care.
I've never voted for a white guy.
What?
Wow.
I've never voted for a white guy.
For president.
And that's for president. Yeah. And that's something that lots of people.
Wow.
Yes. I'm the real racist. But that's something
as some people would say
that young people today are able to say that credibly, not just for president. There's lots of people who in their congressional races, in their Senate races, have never actually voted for a white guy. And that's an incredible state of affairs.
You're not saying you would never vote for a white guy.
I'm not saying I would never vote for a white guy, but it's just
it hasn't happened yet.
It's never happened.
It hasn't happened.
And that's
Jamie mentioned
incredible.
earlier today he's voted for Barack Obama twice and Hillary Clinton and never voted for a white male for
I'm in
president.
the same boat as Vann.
I mean, to think though that we've advanced that far as a country. I find as a white male, I
and
think
for
it's
all of the little
phenomenal.
kids who have the little placemats with all the faces of the presidents, and the idea that they are going to now have an African American and, well, they currently have an African American, and they could add a woman to that. I mean, I think the idea of a girl president is very cool for little girls and for little boys too. I mean, it is, they get it, and I think that there's something really special about the idea in the moment, and we're rightfully in a good position to celebrate as progressives because that is the direction that our party has gone in terms of electing diverse voices. A third of the candidates that Emily has endorsed and who are on the ballot tonight are women of color.
Is that right?
That is right. And we have, looking at the Senate, so this is an institution that has only ever had 2 women of color ever in its history. And tonight we have 3 women of color who are in a strong position to win. We've got Kamala Harris in California, who would be the first African-American woman to be elected in over 20 years. We've got Catherine Cortez Masto in Nevada, who would be the first Latina ever elected. And Tammy Duckworth in Illinois, who's Asian American woman. Just incredible story. And to think that we've had serious policy debates without voices and perspectives that these women bring is just really thrilling to think about how we can change the face of power.
Yeah. Here with us on this election eve special, not election eve, election night special on, or afternoon, wherever you happen to be, on Free Speech TV, Vann Newkirk from The Atlantic, Marcy Stetch from Emily's List, a great organization, and another great organization we depend on a lot, Media Matters, Kristian Ramos. Hey, gang, just we'll give you a little break here. We're going to go back and do again some of the highlights of the campaign, some we may have forgotten about. There were some players out there that some of us have literally forgotten about, who were candidates at one time in this crazy 2016 election. A little montage thanks to Jamie Benson, then we'll be back with all of you and with our panel.
The people of Iowa and New Hampshire and South Carolina have spoken, and I really respect their decision. So tonight, I am suspending my campaign.
No, would you consider being Donald Trump's vice president?
No.
We really have to go to some questions. That's right. Nothing too hard, Mika.
Okay. I get a response to that.
You will have a response, but I promised Governor Kasich he could respond. Can somebody attack me, please?
Okay, here, Wolf.
I call him Little Marco. Hello, Marco. He said I had small hands. Actually, I'm 6'3", not 6'2", but he said I had small hands. They're not small, are they?
Don't worry about it, Little Marco. I will.
All right, well, let's hear Big Don. Donald.
Don't worry about it, Don't worry about it, Little Marco.
Gentlemen,
You ought to show a bit of
Gentlemen, you got to do better than those.
No, I wasn't being held hostage. No, I wasn't sitting up there thinking, oh, my God, what have I done?
That is an area we can get Republican support on.
30 seconds.
Let me be very clear.
Because after
I
all,
have introduced.
Excuse me.
Did you ask me to speak?
There are 2 different Donald Trumps. There's the one you see on the stage, and there's the one who's very cerebral.
I have to look at what is practical. I didn't see a path for Kasich, who I like, or for Rubio, who I like. Is there another scenario that I would have preferred? Yes, but that scenario isn't available.
That is a rough endorsement. I'll tell you what, the bar's about to close. You're not getting younger, and neither am I. Let's get married.
Donald Trump doesn't scare Heidi remotely. When he bellows and attacks her, she's used to dealing with people who are full of hot air and tossing attacks. Donald, you're a sniveling coward, and leave Heidi the hell alone.
Don't forget, I call him Lion Ted. I call him that because nobody that I've known a lot tougher people over the years in business, but I've never known anybody that lied like Ted Cruz.
This story is garbage. It is tabloid smear. And it came from Donald Trump and his henchmen. The only person quoted on the record there is Roger Stone, the chief political advisor to Donald Trump.
Do you continue to pledge whoever the Republican nominee is?
No, I don't anymore. Look.
You don't?
No, we'll see who it is.
I'm not in the habit
of supporting someone who attacks my wife and attacks my family. I think that is going beyond the line.
I really do believe that the folks in New York will forgive me for that big mistake I made when I had that scalding piece of pizza and actually took a fork and touched the pizza pie with it. But I do know how to eat pizza.
Well, that was the funniest thing. I went over to try to talk to him, and he said I was some corporate shill, which, if you know me, that's one of the funnier things you could say about me. And then he just said, you sucked as Batman. And I was like, well, you kind of got me on that one.
I watch our police and our firemen down on 7-Eleven.
What's something that you always carry with you?
Hot sauce.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? Are you getting information right now?
Hot sauce.
Hot sauce in my bag, Swag?
People assume, oh, you must be miserable. You got a horrible job. But I don't see it that way. I'm not, that's what I'm saying. I'm not pouring Baileys in my cereal. I'm not sitting here trying to find the Johnny Walker.
Right now, I don't like lying Ted Cruz. But you know what? In about 4 or 5 weeks from now, I think he's going to be one of my best friends. I mean, that's the way I work. He has a news conference all the time when he's eating. I have never seen a human being eat in such a disgusting fashion.
Now, the amazing thing is that basketball ring here in Indiana, it's the same height as it is in New York City and every other place in this country.
Look at what happened in the 1990s. Our embassies in Kenya and Tanzania.
I know 2 girls that I just adore. I'm so happy I can see them more.
Cruz Fiorina, the number 3 and number 8 choice for America.
We are suspending our campaign.
And while I'm at it, I guess I should go ahead and admit, yes, my dad killed JFK. He is secretly Elvis, and Jimmy Hoffa is buried in his backyard.
As I suspend my campaign today, I have renewed faith, deeper faith, that the Lord will show me the way forward.
We have taken the establishment by surprise. And
I hope to support our nominee. I hope to support his candidacy fully, and I want to do that. But right now, I got to tell you, Jake, just being candid with you, at this point, I'm just not there right now.
Watch how well I do with women when it counts, when the election comes. Watch how well.
Women know Donald Trump is a very successful business person. He's raised a wonderful family. His own wife endorsed him for president.
Bimbo?
Well, there was a retweet. Yeah, did I say that?
Many times.
Ooh, okay. Excuse me.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Here we go. It is Election Day, and if you haven't voted yet, turn the television off and go out and vote, and then come back and watch the rest of the program. Good to have you with us. It's the Bill Press Election Special on Free Speech TV, coming to you live from our nation's capital and our studio on Capitol Hill. This 2-hour special. We only do this once every 4 years on Election Day. So enjoy. We are certainly enjoying it. And don't forget that for every other day of the year, you can watch the Bill Press Show on Free Speech TV from 6 to 9 a.m. East Coast time, or watch on our video stream, youtube.com/The Bill Press Show. It's brand new. We just started up about a week ago, so check it out and subscribe to the Bill Press Show, youtube.com/The Bill Press Show, and then you can follow us all day long, and we'll be pumping out videos and columns and all kinds of good stuff to you. We are in the middle of analyzing the highs and the lows of this 2016 campaign with our great panel here. Kristian Ramos is from Media Matters, Marcy Stetch from Emily's List, and Vann Newkirk, political reporter for The Atlantic. Peter Ogburn has taken over the chair there to run the board.
Hello, Bill.
And, ladies and gentlemen,
this is a Bill Press Show breaking news update.
We got a breaking news update. We made it official because we got a liner. This is not a nice.
This is just like real TV.
Right? Almost. This is not a very good update. I just want to point out. So there have been a couple of stories where there have been gun violence at the polls. We're going to go first to Florida, Lake Worth, Florida. A 39-year-old man and a 68-year-old man got into a scuffle. The 39-year-old man man pushed the 68-year-old man to the ground. The man then informed him he had a gun and he would use it. Turns out he had a concealed weapons permit. He has been charged with simple battery and criminal mischief. Also, this just coming across in Azusa, California, Bill?
Yes.
Azusa, California?
Do you know why they named it Azusa?
Why?
This is true.
Go ahead.
They couldn't think of a name, and so they said this place is just A to Z in the USA.
Is that right?
Yes.
That's why they call it Azusa?
Azusa.
Well,
A to Z in the USA.
It's spelled A-Z-U-S-A, Azusa.
Yeah, that's makes it.
Sense. Well, 2 polling places are currently closed, Memorial Park and Dalton Elementary in Azusa, because there is an active shooter situation.
Wow.
And this brings up the question, I don't remember this being an issue on Election Day with the gun violence.
I don't either. What about our panel? But
No.
It's not surprising when you have Donald Trump, who talked about during the campaign, he could step out on Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody, and still his supporters would stick with him. Not surprising when Donald Trump said at one point that the lovers of the Second Amendment might have an answer for how to take care of Hillary Clinton or any Supreme Court justice she might nominate were she elected. And Donald Trump, who has told his people to go out and make sure there's no voter fraud at the polls. I mean, what are they going to, right? They hear that message, crazies will go out and do crazy stuff.
It's not just that. He's actively engaged with the NRA in an unparalleled way, really. And I got to point to Media Matters' favorite is not the wrong word, but somebody who provides a lot of content, I guess, Ted Nugent, who is constantly talking about killing not just Hillary Clinton, but, take your pick of your ethnic minority. He really is all over the place with his fantasies, I guess.
I mean, only 2 incidences in all the thousands of polling places in the country. You got to put that in perspective. But still, it's troubling, Vann.
Well, I think it's troubling, but I will say it is probably happening at lower rates than I expected, given the rhetoric.
Really?
Given the fact that now people can open carry to the polls, given the fact that there have been reports of armed poll observers and watchers, and I really think that's a testament to elections workers, to activists who have gone out there and done their best over the past 2 weeks to make elections safe and to provide vans and to make sure people have safety in numbers and are informed so they can't be intimidated in the sort of less violent ways that usually will shift an election more than just armed violence. So I think, now that's really, they've done really great work.
What's bizarre to me about this is that Trump, for all intents and purposes, is supposed to be the candidate that's going to make you safe. And yet, all he does is preach. I mean, that's what he says. That's what he says. That's what he goes on all these shows and, in his speeches or whatever. And that's his thing. But I don't know how anybody feels safer when everybody's packing a gun and your candidate is actively encouraging people to use this stuff.
Yeah. Marcy, I want to change just a little bit here. What does it say about this country, what does it say about the Republican Party when the nominee of the Republican Party uses such foul, abusive, insulting language about women and treating women not just as second-class objects, but as people, the victim? I mean, people. He just almost owns, right? He has a right to assault anytime he wants and brag about it.
That's right.
If you start with Rosie O'Donnell before became president, but then Megyn Kelly, I mean, Miss Universe wasn't the first, right?
Well, I think about, for those of us...
And look, he's going to get 36 million votes.
I know, and that is a hard thing to stomach, but the reality is that there are more people who find it repulsive, and we're going to send him a message tonight, and I believe that it is going to be women voters, again, who are going to decide this election. Emily Liz started this Women Can Stop Trump campaign a couple of months ago, actually, where we wanted to highlight, use Donald Trump's words against him. The most powerful way to run against any candidate is to use their own words against them. And with Donald Trump, you do these opposition research books on any candidate, and you got some good stuff in there, but Donald Trump was next level. And so we knew that we had a lot of work to do to educate and to really drive home this narrative. So we had this campaign going, got millions of people to come on board and to really share this content with their networks. And then the video came out in October, the video in which he was caught on tape bragging about
Access Hollywood.
That's
was
right.
Just October. Goodness.
It was October 1st or 7th. Right. It was just a month ago when this came out, which really rocked all of us in the movement, I think, as progressives, and it just rocked women to their core, as Michelle Obama said in her speech. That was, to this day, one of the most powerful political speeches I've ever heard.
Absolutely.
I think that, for those of us who've been running against Republicans, especially through the lens of the issues that impact women, we're used to defunding Planned Parenthood and, pushing back on those attempts. We're used to the banning of birth control personhood. We're used to the medically unnecessary forced transvaginal probes. Like, that is the Republican Party that of 2012 and 2014 that we were prepared for. But in 2016, the Republican Party has turned into the party of sexual assault, fat shaming, and also just general disregard for women. That is, I think, what we are going to see tonight with voting, especially with women, this gender gap that is going to be driven by women voters, Republican women, Democratic women, independent women, who are going to send Donald Trump a message. But that is the opportunity that we have to continue to say. And unless Republicans want to change their policies and change their ideas and change who their leaders are, they're the same folks who Donald Trump is representing today.
I'm still stunned every time I see a Trump crowd and see women in that crowd. I just expect them to be all old white guys, right? Who buy this stuff, but
Well, statistically, we're trending that way.
Yeah, right. But that so many women still. I'm sure the gap will be wider than it's ever been. How did Mitt Romney do? Do you remember the numbers?
With women, there was a 20-point gender gap in between
20 points
between.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
but it was I think it was 12 points that President Obama did better, but Mitt Romney did 8 points better among men. So the gap was 20 points. We are seeing numbers here now that could potentially even double that, because driven by women. College-educated white women is a demographic that has traditionally always gone to Republicans. Mitt Romney won them by 16 points. Donald Trump is losing them by 27 points, I believe, in the latest polling that we saw. So women are looking at this and seeing it for what it is. Overall, generally speaking, and sure, there are going to be some who show up to his rallies and some who are going to troll me on Twitter for saying that women can stop Trump. But overall, by and large, women have really been shaken by this experience. And it's been triggering for a lot of women, too, especially the conversation around sexual assault, because so many women face it and know people who have been part of those experiences.
It almost says everything you need to know about Donald Trump, that the one demographic where he leads is white men without a college education. Think about that.
I mean,
you
I
almost
do
give him that crowd and say, all right.
I do want to back up to some of the things that she was just saying, in that, for me, Trump's comments were remarkable in that I did not realize how many of my own friends or colleagues had suffered from sexual assault of some sort or another. And it was really astonishing to see in social media and see all these people coming out and saying exactly that. It was triggering. And it was really, like, to me, in 2016, that this is something that, and I sound really naive right now, but I'm just going to own it. It was sad that this was something that was driving national politics, and it was the nominee of a political party today. I mean, I can't.
Well, I think what Trump shows and what those 36 million some odd, hopefully less, voters.
Less. I just picked that number.
Voters are telling us is that, what women who have given their testimonials on Twitter, on social media, are telling us is that this is a normal thing, and that this is a normalized thing. And this is one of the reasons why I've sort of been thinking that unity is overrated in a sense, and that the message that we will unify as a country after the election is sort of overrated, because why would you want to be unified with people who think sexual assault is totally cool? Why would you want to be unified with people who think that women are property, or think, are perpetuating rape culture, and not just that, all these other things.
I guess within the concept of unity is the dream, maybe, not the reality, that some of those people would leave that behind them,
Right.
and then join the
But even
party.
along those lines, what I think is fascinating, and I feel like I guess it's not the elephant in the room, but the misogyny directed in the media towards Hillary Clinton is also sort of mind-blowing in a lot of ways. And again, to sit there and watch some of this stuff in 2016 and to realize that Secretary Clinton has probably dealt with this stuff in one way or the other for her entire life, career, professional, whatever. I mean,
She was treated differently as a woman, wasn't she, as a candidate?
I mean, she was. I think it was better than 2008.
Yes.
Right. Like,
yes.
I think that there has been
But still,
progress
there were
made.
times when you had to ask, would they be making the same arguments?
Yeah, and we work with hundreds of women candidates, and we would do trainings. We expect that there will be moments in which you are asked about how you're going to be able to take care of your children and run for office, and really be able to focus on your job with that. Or we're expecting, that there will be coverage about the color of your outfit. I mean, that is typical type of coverage when it comes to women candidates. I do think that her presidency, her candidacy, this campaign has improved the standing for women candidates overall. If you can see it, you can be it. And I think that with Hillary Clinton, she has run a high-level campaign that has been, unfortunately, driven by personality because of Donald Trump. But she has run a campaign that has been focused on issues, that she has been able to stand on a debate stage with this guy and throw some glorious shade and do what she needed to do to deliver the messages that she needed to do. Right?
She won all three.
Yeah. So I do
debates.
think that this candidacy and this is symbolic and also going to be helpful for our movement as we work on electing the second and the third and the fourth women president.
Quick comment, then I want to move on to some of the other races
Sure.
too. Go ahead.
I just wanted to say I agree with that. I guess my point was the level with which in social media people were calling her horrible names was which is like a different thing.
Totally. And women who are Hillary Clinton supporters, even during the Democratic primary, were afraid to speak out because they were concerned about what type of backlash they would get. I mean, I still face it. I mean, go on Fox News or whatever it is, and I get every single day that the trolls in my feed. And you know what, I know that I'm not the only one out there, but it has opened up this entire floodgate of misogyny, and it has made it okay for others to go directly after women and specifically women candidates.
So for all of our friends on Free Speech TV, we talked at the top about the fact that, yes, we're going to elect the 45th president of the United States. We also have, 36 members of the Senate up for re-election, some very important Senate races and House races, and a lot of other very powerful and impressive women who are running. Let's give us maybe the 2 or 3 top or 5 superstars we can talk about.
Totally. So Democrats, of course, need 5 seats to take back the Senate.
4 if Hillary's elected president.
4 if Hillary is elected president. That's right, Tim Kaine's seat. And it's going to be Democratic women who are going to be the ones who are going to get us back to the majority of the Senate. We have just this incredible slate of women. The closest and most, these are going to be close races. They might not be decided right away, but we are in a strong position in New Hampshire where Maggie Hassan is running against Kelly Ayotte. Typical Republican who has done her life's work to try to defund Planned Parenthood, and New Hampshire voters are not having it. You've got Katie McGinty in Pennsylvania, who will be the first woman ever elected senator from that state. The largest delegation in the entire country to not have a single woman in it. You've got North Carolina, where Deborah Ross, and we were talking about this before, but North Carolina is one of those states that didn't look like it would necessarily be on the board. It is on the board. Deborah is in a dead heat, polling within the margin of error, and we are seeing good, strong promise coming out of North Carolina. You got Catherine Cortez Masto in Nevada, Illinois, with we talked about. That's an important hold seat for us. It's Harry Reid's seat. We can't win back the Senate without having that seat held. She's in a good place there. Tammy Duckworth in Illinois, who is going to be the next senator. She's going to take send Mark Kirk packing. And then we've got Ann Kirkpatrick in Arizona, who that could be a sleeper race for tonight as well. So lots of women on the ballot. These are all races that are going to be tough.
Kamala Harris from California.
That's right.
It looks like will be the nominee up against Loretta Sanchez. 2 Democrats because of the so-called jungle primary system.
But good for
we now have in
California for picking
California.
2 women of color to be on the ballot there.
Exactly.
So, but
Right.
Kamala will be a fantastic senator. She's going to really be a leader and a progressive voice. I think she will be, an Elizabeth Warren of the Senate, especially when it comes to issues like criminal justice reform.
If you look at that, if the four or five of them, the women, that's really going to change the character of the Senate, Vann.
Oh yeah, I believe so. Actually, so one of the interesting things is Deborah Ross is in North Carolina. One of the people directly responsible for the expansion of early voting and same-day registration when she was working in the General Assembly. Yeah, which is absolutely, it's one of those things where it's sort of how circular things are.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and that's all blowing my mind right now, that early voting is something that is defining North Carolina, and she's sort of in the driver's seat with that now.
Yeah. Early voting and I think there are 13 states where you can walk in today and register to vote and vote the same day, which, why not?
Yeah,
why not?
Everybody should do that.
It seems like a common sense thing, we should probably have the day off. Transit should probably
Bernie
be free.
Sanders talked about that yesterday,
Right.
saying
Should be on a
it should
Saturday.
be a national holiday or put it on a week or a Saturday when everybody can get there, and extend early voting. Make it as easy as possible for as many people as possible to vote. Why not?
Absolutely.
And
I wanted to shift to the House, actually.
All right, let's do it.
I had some sleeper hits of my own. I got
shoot to the House, and let me just repeat the numbers I gave at the top. Today, there are 246 Republicans in the House, 186 Democrats, 3 vacancies. Democrats need 30 to take back the House. Go ahead.
I was actually going to go to specific races. I wasn't going to give any prognostications on that. But Joe Garcia in Miami up against Carlos Curbelo. That'll be an interesting one. His district was just changed. It's a little more Democratic. Also in Florida, you've got Darren Soto, who would actually be the first Dominican member of Congress.
Oh, wow.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
I believe. I'm pretty sure. But Darren Soto. And then over in Texas, you got Pete Gallego, which is also sort of an interesting, I always say that race is a sort of a canary in the coal mine for Texas because it goes back and forth between Democratic and Republican depending on the year. So I think hopefully Pete pulls that out. And then if you're looking down in Nevada, Ruben Kewen's race is also a really interesting thing. The Latino vote there has been a machine for a while. And from what I hear, down to people in the States who have been doing this for a while, they've never seen anything like the early vote. And there's been a lot written about it, but I think it's important to sort of emphasize you got May Stowe, Kewen, and I think they're going to take back the state legislature, from what I understand, in Nevada, which is a huge thing. And people do not understand that these lower state races, as you're going into 2018 and 2020, really matter when you're talking about redistricting. And when you're talking about this coalition of women and LGBTQ community and African Americans and Latinos, that's really where it's going to be at for the foreseeable, for the future. I shouldn't say for the foreseeable future.
I think 2010 was maybe the most important election of the last maybe 20, 30 years in terms of how much it solidified the House in the census redistricting. Yeah.
Right, and we have a program at Emily's List focused on specifically around redistricting in 2020. Some of these chamber flips you mentioned, Nevada being one of those places. We're also watching places like North Carolina. We're looking at places like Minnesota has an opportunity there. Michigan, we had to make some headway. We understand this is a long game. 2016 is part of it. 2018 and 2020 are going to be huge races for these state legislatures. I think Democrats are really united. We know we cannot take. It's going to be very difficult to take the House back without full and fair redistricting measures. And I think that we have some good ground to make. You mentioned Nevada. We have an entire ballot in Nevada in Henderson, which has Democratic women top to bottom. So you've got Hillary Clinton, Catherine Cortez Masto, Jackie Rosen, and then you've got women running for the state assembly too. All Democratic women, all Emily's List women. That is a first, and I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I just want to, we're going to wrap up here, but I want to just, again, underscore the importance of the state legislative and governor's races. The Republicans realized that. Karl Rove did, called Red Map. Back in 2010, and that's how they won control of the House of Representatives. You guys are great. Thanks so much for coming in today. Vann Newkirk, right? Marcy Stetch and Kristian Ramos. And that's it for us here on Free Speech TV this election eve. Again, there's still time where you are to vote if you haven't already voted. It is so, so important. All of our shows will be back on the regular schedule for Free Speech TV, and hopefully we celebrate tomorrow morning Hillary Clinton, President of the United States.
This is the Bill Press Show.